Hello and welcome back to the All Walks of Life podcast. Um, it's been a while since I've done a podcast. Really, uh, I've missed it, to be really honest. I've been looking for opportunities to bring back the podcast, get guests back on. Uh, Primarily, I haven't been doing it is because it's been difficult for me to get guests in person who I'd be interested in speaking with. Luckily, the guest I have on today, Smriti, is someone whose work I've been really interested in for a while now, and the fact that we could have this conversation was pretty nice. Additionally, I also didn't want to fall into the trap of simply making content for the heck of it, if that makes sense. Because I feel that if my heart isn't really in it, in those conversations that I am putting out, then maybe there is something, then there isn't a point of sort of putting those conversations out there. Primarily, it's also because if I don't have anything to say, then maybe sometimes the best thing is for it not to be said, right? In some way. Anyway, I wouldn't keep you long, but yeah, it's really nice to sort of produce content once again. I hope you guys are tuned in, particularly for this conversation, but whatever else I have on board. So yeah, without further ado, here's my conversation with the podcaster, blogger, and writer Smriti Notani. Hey Smriti, welcome to the All Walks of Life podcast. A pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much. It is my absolute pleasure to be here, and I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah. So we've been sort of going back and forth on dates, and I'm finally really happy that we can have this conversation now. But we were just speaking offline regarding like you're sort of still recovering from COVID. So is everything you find there? Everything catching up fine?
Yes, I mean, I'm sure you know India right now is kind of right in the center of the COVID storm. The numbers are rising every day, and I happen to be one of those statistics right now, which feels funny to say. But yes, I'm recovering very well. I'm happy to say I'm double vaccinated, so I guess it was a mild case. Not to say that that's how it happens for everyone, but I'm just trying to count my blessings here. And yes, I'm well on my way to recovery, still in isolation though, and that's why we can do this little online interview.
Oh wow, that's pretty sick though. Like in the sense that you're still isolating, but can go ahead with this, because often
Yes,
yeah, because oftentimes and I understand that the whole isolation bit. I think it is important, but often what often gets overlooked in this aspect is that like this aspect of loneliness and those sorts of things, obviously it becomes like a very taboo thing to talk about, but I think it is really important because like scientists have looked at this sort of literature that even if people are put in confinement for 7 days or even 14 days of that sort, it really has like a detriment on their mental health. So
absolutely.
in some way, if one is getting the opportunity just to even speak, even if it's through the medium of, let's say, Zoom or something of that sort, I do think it does sort of help. Because oftentimes when I sort of look at these aspects, not only in relation to COVID but in other areas as well, there's a lot of emphasis which is put on cure and not prevention. So for example, like if someone sort of is suffering from a particular ailment, only then will they sort of go to a doctor, but preventative things won't be put out as such by the government or other institutions. So yeah, that's something I
Yeah,
think
sure. I mean, that's
strongly
two
about.
things you've spoken about here, both important. One, of course, is the power of human connection.
Hmm.
And I'm a huge advocate for just mental health, mental wellness in general. And I think human connection is a big part of that.
Yeah.
And the other thing, of course, being preventative care, which I agree. I mean, I think we just don't have, culturally, we don't have that, right? Like we think going to a doctor or going to even a mental health professional, these are like things we do when things get really bad. We
Yeah.
don't do it in a way to promote general good health, so yeah, both your points are super important. And through all of my content that I create, I try and emphasize on the concept of kind of having good relationships in your life, which is, I know it's a deeper topic and I didn't mean to just like just straight go there,
That's
but it
fine.
just yeah, it just came out so naturally. So yeah, I do believe, and at a time like this when you feel so isolated, though I must admit my family is along with me on this ride, so we're luckily
Okay.
together
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm not completely isolated. But having said that, of course, it's very true. It's it can be a really lonely journey, and 2 days into isolation you can feel yourself going crazy, you know.
Yeah. No, I think it's so important, and I'd like to just touch upon that human connection thing, because
Sure.
I've sort of seen this in my trajectory as well, as like in the realm of podcasting and those sorts of things, just making creative content on the internet. Is that I think it wasn't like I was prone to having conversations socially or something of that sort, but like I would sort of, I don't know, it's sort of like this I really love this medium of podcasting, because in some way it sort of allows two individuals to speak in a manner that they probably wouldn't have if microphones or something of that sort weren't in front of you. Or even if when you are sort of going for a date for coffee or something of that sort, sometimes you do go into those conversations, but I don't know, sometimes maybe it's just this element of like some element of formality which sort of aids conversations and
Yeah.
helps in the fact that people are really able to then understand each other. Like, have you
Yeah.
sort of seen that in as a podcaster yourself?
Sure. I mean, see, firstly, I have to say I belong to another generation, right? And when we went to college, I mean, think about it. It makes me sound ancient. But when I went to college, there was no Instagram. I mean, think about it. Like, to have good equations, you literally had to survive on conversations, you know. Digital came in much later. So, as a generation itself, I think that's how we grew up. We did have, I mean, conversations have been around forever, you know. Luckily, I think there was like, this whole phase where our attention spans just got shorter and shorter. And I mean, when I say luckily, I mean that luckily now it's back to podcasting and back to the longer conversations. I just feel they've been around forever. Each generation finds their own way around it. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like like we have not invented conversations. Our elders did not invent conversations. Conversations have been around, just the medium keeps changing, keeps upgrading, keeps getting more relevant to particular generations. For example, for podcasting, typically you do it the way we are doing it, which is, we're in different countries even, and
Hmm.
we're able to pick this time and give each other a slot and decide on a slot and just come together and have this conversation. But yeah, I mean, all due credit to podcasting, because it is a medium that is encouraging proper, long, meaningful conversations, and that I think will always be the need of the hour.
Yeah. At least I hope so. And that was sort of, I mean, I've spoken so many times on my podcast about this, that was sort of the main inkling of me starting my own podcast, was because of like just how sort of traditional media is sort of just channeled, that everything is in like tidbits and like clips and this and that, and
Yes,
there isn't always like this depth that often is required, or to really get to like the crux of like the topic area. And that's
absolutely.
why when you sort of touched about this aspect of attention span as well, I think there's very much of this misnomer that's sort of going about in like the general consensus that our attention spans have sort of decreased. To some extent I do agree with that, but I also feel that how we sort of have to look at attention span is that if something is really nice and something that you're sort of hooked into, it doesn't matter how long it is. If it's actually like really invigorating, it's something that you're really enjoying. I don't think that time is such a is such a conundrum there. But yeah, so that's how I sort of see podcasting, because I was having this conversation with Garima Surana, who sort of has her own podcast, and she does Sochcast as well. She's a co-founder there, and she
Yeah.
sort of had a different view on how she looks at things. She says that the Indians audience in general isn't still, let's say, how the Americans are consuming podcasts, in the sense that they
Right.
aren't so mature to sort of have longer ended conversations. Like, what do you sort of see? How, like, where do you fit in?
Well, firstly, Garma would know more about this because, as somebody who's founded Sochcast, she has the figures, she has the stats. And I'm talking from a very, like, my perspective is very what I seem to like in my life, what
Yeah.
I notice in my peers and what I notice in colleagues and, things like that. So I would, I wouldn't contest her opinion on this or at all. Having said that, see, there's always going to be different types of people. I mean, you're not accounting for different personalities here, because I know people who just do not have the mental, emotional bandwidth to tune
Hmm.
into a podcast. They don't want to go deep. I mean, their lives are busy and hectic, and there's so much happening from morning to night that to get into a so-called conversation or hear, like I have two podcasts, right? And I have people telling me that, when it comes to my first podcast, which is Real Talk, um, I have people telling me saying, like, I'm sorry, I can't,
Hmm.
I would rather talk to you. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I am your friend, we can talk. But I've had people tell me that, like, listen, it's just my own sister tells me that, listen, I get such little time in life that if I have some time, I'll just call you. So I'm like, sure. So I mean, she's not rejecting conversation, she's just saying she doesn't need the digital medium to
Hmm.
have it or to feel that connection. So I think, it's too broad an answer. Like, it's people have different family units. It depends, like, do you have nuclear family, do you have a joint family, do you have a very hectic work life? Like, I know way back when I was working in media, and like, my days were so packed. I gave up on reading completely, something I so enjoy. But I just didn't have, back to the word attention span, I
Hmm.
did not have the attention span to give a book. It just wasn't happening. Also, as somebody who's worked in kind of the creative field always, I was a copywriter in an ad agency. I was just looking at words and words and words, right? Like, I had to get to work and then read briefs and read things. And, so that left me uh, actually saying, I just don't want to read more.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't throw words at me. And I got a lot more into digital content. I remember YouTube was new, there were very few YouTubers, there were few bloggers, and I started enjoying that sort of stuff. So
Hmm.
there's no one absolute answer. Of course, I'm sure the statistics will tell you realistically what how we consume podcasts in this country, etc. But from my personal experience, I feel like so much depends on your age, your life stage, your personality type, what you generally like, apart from trends, apart from what is happening in the digital space. Who are you as a person? Do you like slowing down? Do you like things being pacey and racy and fast? So, I mean, I hope that answered your question.
No, I think yeah, it does, and I think that's how it sort of should be, right? Like in a sense that if someone sort of is more inclined towards one particular medium, then that's
Yeah.
fine. Like that, there shouldn't
Yeah.
be like such a qualm about it. Like how I sort of see it, and maybe I take like a different approach to sort of like how Garima looks at it. I understand that this element of like figures and stuff and people's livelihood depend on it. Luckily for me, it's just like a side hustle, and
Yeah.
I'm sort of happy in some way as well, because I feel that if I sort of pander out to let's say catering to acha, like what sort of hit in my podcast, or
Yes.
what
Yeah.
goes this way, what goes that way, I'm not sure, and maybe I'm just like a skeptic sitting on the outside. I sort of rather enjoy making it because I like having the conversations. Now, if I
Right.
would step out and look at from the outside that, acha, what is the external listeners of mine who's actually enjoying it in what manner, then maybe it would stop me producing the kind of content I really want to.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's or but I understand. So on one hand, I understand like the financial side of things, but I also don't know how it sort of fits in well with like the creativity aspect of things. This is something I really wanted to ask you, because you recently partnered with JioSavan. So like
Yeah.
how's that sort of working out, like in terms of like the creative freedom, the liberties, and that sort of side things.
Yeah, sure. I mean, great question. So firstly, about creating content, I'll take this in parts, okay? About creating content that you want to see out in this world. I think we live in a golden time of content. Let me just put it like that, because there are takers for everything right now. Like, literally everything. I don't think there's any particular kind of content right now that isn't working. And you can see brands, companies, everyone is pivoting to content, because that's what they need to kind of sell, basically, because content sells. I mean, think about it, how many influencers did even 5 years ago, versus now it's an economy, right?
Yeah.
So content is here to stay, and it'll always take different shapes and forms, and there will be takers for every kind of form. And I think, for someone like you who's a student, or even someone like me who's a working professional, at the end of the day, it makes imminent sense to keep creating content, because
Hmm.
we're building our personal brands, we're building our networks, we're building our connections. And, I hate it when people gloss over this part, because I'm like, it's, yes, one aspect is you chase the money and you go like, oh, okay, but how much am I earning and how much am I making out of it? But think about all the other aspects that it's bringing to your life and putting you in a whole different bucket. How many people have you interacted with just because of podcasting?
For
I
sure.
mean,
Yeah,
think
yeah,
about it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, you cannot put a figure on that. And I mean, I honestly don't know your background. I can just speak to myself for myself. At the end of the day, I don't come from a media family or something. Everything, every connection I have, every person I've met and interacted with has been through my career. And that's because I have this ability to talk to people and to get out their stories and to have these conversations. And trust me, this is how I also convert clients, because as a freelance content writer, I mean, if people know me, then they think about me when there is some content work to be done. So there's no putting a price on these kind of connections. So that is one thing I wanted to talk about, the advantages of creating content right now. To get to the second part of your question, which was about my second podcast, which is in partnership with JioSaavn. Luckily, I was very, very clear what I wanted to do with that show. So to give you a little bit of a background, I already had a show, right, called Real Talk. And that is very monologue style, just me giving my opinion on different things, going on in this world or in my life, or different social topics and things like that. And I just wanted to keep it very real. I already had a blog called Real Girl, so it made imminent sense to kind of pivot and also have a podcast where I'm giving my opinions on things. Luckily for me, I think it was also good timing, and there weren't too many podcasts at that point. It got noticed, it got a lot of media attention, got a lot of love. And I knew, way back then, like 2 years ago, I knew I need to now think about which other direction I'm going to take this in. I can't just keep building on the fact that I'm a girl who has opinions. I mean, of course, that stays. That is the underlying kind of premise of my life. But I want to make this bigger. I want to involve people in these conversations. I mean, I know so many amazing people and amazing women who, have their unique experiences and have different, sort of have a lot of perspective they can bring to the table. And I wanted to have like a chat show, right? So when I went to JioSaavn itself, to pitch my show, which is something I did and I make no qualms about it, I was clear that this is what I'm already doing. I do not want to do more of that. I will keep doing that on my own time. I want to create a chat show. And the minute it's a chat show, as you would know because yours is a chat show, there are more elements involved, right? You need good editing, you need good sound production, basically more production elements involved. So I knew that for that chat show format, I wanted to do it at a larger scale and things like that. And luckily, they understood my concept. They understood my vision. So when it comes to creative freedom, I had it 100%. Yes, there were things where they would redirect me. For example, I could go on and on talking, but they were clear that there has to be a time limit to this. So some of my interviews are edited down from a large. It's a large interview that's been edited down. So things like that, of course, yes, they did have a say. But my unique tone of voice, who I am, how I talk, what I ask my guests, I could do that entirely by myself. And that's also because there is a level of trust with them. They know, they get my brand. And that was actually very important to me, because at that point, and I'm being very, very candid with you here, it's not that I only met with them, I met with others as well. But sometimes I myself didn't want things to go ahead, because I was like, no, they do not get my brand at all. They don't get, when I say my brand, by the way, I'm not trying to sound presumptuous. I'm just trying to say that there's a very specific thing I'm trying to bring to the table. So either you understand that or you don't. I mean, like, if you don't, then it's going to be hard to create a show together, because I mean, we'll always be stuck in that loop then, right? Like, at every point I'll be like, no, but this is what I'm trying to do. And at every point they will be like, oh, but we don't really understand why you need to do this. So I needed to be on the same wavelength. And luckily, the very, very cool folks over at JioSaavn got it, completely understood me. And we created that entire show again over this pandemic. And I think it's turned out as well as we could,
Yeah.
could make it turn out, given the circumstances. Yeah.
No, it's great. Yeah, I had to listen to quite a few of those conversations. Really nice.
Awesome.
But
Thanks.
yeah, no, but I think that's so important though, because and luckily it worked out for you, because I think if someone is going into a partnership of that sort, I think the buy-in is so important for
Yeah.
for both the sides to sort of understand, like, to see the vision and see where it's going. Because as you said, right, if there are some things which sort of don't match, and it just becomes much difficult for you as, let's say, content creator to produce that content, and then maybe for the publisher or the people who are actually
Yes.
putting the money in to sort of then produce it and then publish it, because
Yes.
the hearts aren't in it, and that sort of stuff. So yeah,
Exactly.
I totally
I
agree.
mean, to be extremely candid, of course, it also matters that it's such a large platform, which is something I felt at this stage in my career. I felt ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
I have been in the media industry for a decade now, more than a decade now, and I've worked my way. I've worked very, very hard over the years in different capacities and different fields. So I just felt ready to also have that platform, which I think is also something that I would say that you also should know that you're worthy of that. Like, I know I've been consistently building Real Girl itself for like 5-6 years now. So, I mean, it's not just me and what I'm saying, it's also what I have to show and what I have in terms of my assets that I've built,
Yeah.
that I could bring to the table and say, hey, listen, this is who I am. And like you said, but then it's also on a really good partnership.
Yeah.
It's also on how much they um, agree and how much they see it that way.
So what do you think about sort of this aspect of platform? Because I guess some people, what I'm talking about is in the sense of, like, when you partner up with JioSaavn, obviously they're a big
Hmm.
brand and the reach increases and those sorts of things.
Hmm.
Does that sort of enter your mind when you're sort of creating the content then, or having these conversations as Acha, that I have so many more people to sort of cater to now? Or do you sort of not think about that and just have the conversation as you would previously, or just in general, and then see where it goes, if that makes sense? And because if you sort of then start thinking about the audience from the get-go, then it might sort of lead to problems.
Yeah, that's a great question. I will tell you, I don't know what is the right answer, but I'll tell you what I did.
Huh.
And what I did was that I didn't really bother about the fact that, so many more people are going to listen. I did understand straight from the get-go that being a certain tonality and being a
Hmm.
certain language, etc., would mean I'm alienating certain crowds. But personally, I felt it's a golden opportunity to kind of just put myself out there on such a large platform and be true to my brand, which, like I
Hmm.
said, I've been mindfully building without worrying about numbers, without worrying about statistics. And when you're that mindful from day one about what you're trying to put out there, it actually becomes easier when when you've got this platform, that okay, fine, I'm gonna now as mindfully do this.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to lose track and just be like, oh my god, so many people, let me do this, let me make it filmy, let me make it Hindi, let me, like. But that's a great question, because that is a trap one can fall into.
But I'm still wondering though. You must sometimes though fall into the trap though, in the sense that, acha, look at me now. There's so many people I have to cater to. So in however much we may try to guard against that aspect,
Hmm.
there may be elements that sort of slip in, that, acha, you're showboating, or you're in a sense that you're sort of under, like, I understand in one sense that you have to be true to yourself, and then that's something I try to do as much as possible. But
Hmm.
do you think there's also this aspect of responsibility that comes in? For example, if there is such a large audience that you're catering to, then is there
Hmm.
some sort of responsibility in the sense of how you sort of work with your speech, or how you sort of have to when you're interacting with guests? Or is there some sort of responsibility that I'm possibly missing out, that one has as a content creator when there is such a large pool that they're catering to?
There is a responsibility, but honestly, I feel as responsible as a writer, because I write
Mhm.
for editorial publications as well. And so there's large numbers of people reading that kind of stuff. So I've been sort of conscious of that responsibility since a long time.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, I've worked in advertising, I've written for digital publications. So there's a certain your personality kind of develops into a conscientious person, somebody who doesn't want to put either negative things out there, or for example, I take pride in being a feminist, so I would never want to put something out there that puts women down or
Hmm.
that misleads them, or I would never want to put something that I consider orthodox or not liberal enough. So
Hmm.
when you are a content creator, over time this kind of stuff starts sitting with you into your deep into your psyche, and trust me, that's who you become. So for example, I was never the person in a social situation that had any issue with anybody saying anything. I was like, hey, everyone comes from different backgrounds and I'm okay, and that's their opinion, and how does it matter? But today I can't hold back. I Because it's become part of my psyche. I now want to only surround myself with sensible conversations, sensible people, and like I said, topics that don't demean any one section of society.
Right.
So that becomes you as a person, not just as a creator. So that's who I am as a person, because of which I think it wasn't difficult even to bring that across in my show, in both of my shows, because it's like I said, it's part of me now. So I'm not pandering to anybody. I'm
Right.
just
Yeah.
like, I've figured my way around this, and I know that this is what I stand for. And that comes with, I mean, I'm going to sound like an absolute grandma, but that comes with age. Because when you're younger, you're still finding yourself, and you're still checking what causes you feel passionately about,
Mhm.
and how many things do you believe in, but when it comes into your life, can you actually hold your convictions? So when you're older, this stuff becomes easier because you've had enough and more practice being you know
Mhm.
you've had enough and more practice standing for the things you want to stand for, with in social situations, with family, with everything. And being desi, being Indian, you know a lot of things come up for us within our circles itself, within our social situations. So when you realize, you're like, as the years pass, that no, this is a non-negotiable with me, I am not going to be that person, then it kind of seeps into your content, and then you don't have to worry about what you're putting out there, because that's just you.
Yeah. So you spoke, and I do agree with that. So in the sense of like, if there are some sort of principles that you stand by, not to sort of like just not to sort of then betray them in some way.
Yeah.
But you also then talked about this aspect of sort of being in crowds which are like engaging in sensible conversations and those sorts of things. What I sort of believe in is that even if someone has like a different opinion to mine, I would still entertain that on like a platform like mine, because only then can I then sort of challenge the preconceived notions that I have, right? Like in some way. And I also believe in some aspect that when I'm also speaking to some of my guests, which I bring on, even if they have opinions which are different to mine, I sort of in some way, if there is something to challenge, I do challenge them. But in a way, I also give them a platform for them to voice their opinion, and not always just some always sort of poke my nose into interjecting at the very smallest of things, because in some way I sort of, I don't know, I sort of find it disrespectful if I'm sort of then calling
Yeah,
someone on
sure.
simply to sort of demean them. So that's another way I sort of look at things. How so? Is that something you sort of partake in your work, that even if someone does hold, so for example, if you are a feminist and something of that sort, but if someone is, let's say, with conservative views, would you still, let's say, entertain that individual on your platform and have like a conversation with them? Or would you still feel that because you said in some aspect, and do correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, that you
Mm.
said that if there's something that you won't agree with, like if something it's not, let's say, liberal enough or something of that sort, you wouldn't want to promote that stuff. So that's what I'm trying to understand there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you have a very, very valid point there. I mean, if somebody comes on your show and they're saying something, see, I would like to think overall I'm a pretty respectful individual. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I will have like a hissy fit on my show. But it hasn't happened yet, to be honest, because we're just one season in, and that was
Yeah.
just 10 guests. And they were 10 guests I chose, I handpicked. And they were already personalities. Most of them are already they have a large following of some sort. Not to say they're all influencer or only social media influencers. They're different fields and things like that, but I already respect them for who they are and where they come from. And so it's not come up for me yet, to be
Right.
honest, because
Yeah.
these are people I knew aligned with my values. And that was my point. Like, I knew I'm creating a show with a large platform, and I wanted these guests to come on and get that space to say their piece, you know, because I feel like there's enough regressive stuff around us. Put on any GEC, that's a general entertainment channel, and you will find the same content, the same regressive shit. You will find it all around you. So my point is, I don't have to seek it out and give these people a
Yeah,
chance.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
if I can control this, I
Mhm.
would only like to bring on people who kind of align with my philosophy, with my thoughts, and mostly are liberal. But it hasn't happened. Like, if someone does come on and they do say some stuff, knowing me, I will give them their space. I will engage in banter, as you said. I will engage in a repartee, and I would like to take that conversation back and forth and understand where they're coming from. But that's only when, like, when I can't control it and someone's just come and said something. But if I can control the fact that the person coming on is already somebody very, very sensible and somebody who aligns with my values, I would rather do that.
Right. Um, Not to sort of go like hop on this point much longer, but like, don't you feel that in some way that puts like a lot of baggage on oneself? For example, because this is something I wanted to talk to you about, because on social media as well, you sort of have these things that you put on, like as labels that you've put on your Instagram, like unfiltered, funny, feminist, and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Um, and don't you feel that in some way, even if those are principles that you sort of imbibe, if one sort of projects them as on the platform, it becomes in some way yeah, just
Limiting.
yeah, not only limiting, I'd say, but like not give them a lot more intellectual freedom. So for example, to entertain those points of view which may be conservative, but just as like a thought experiment perhaps, or to say that acha, these were things that I thought in the past, but now maybe I've evolved from them, or something of that sort. So that's like, maybe I just want to understand, like, what's the philosophy behind it, or do you
Sure.
yeah.
Fair enough. No, I mean, uh, see, everything that you're saying makes sense. Okay, let me just put that out there. It's not like I'm not having that moment that, oh my god, what are you saying, or why are you questioning me? No, it all makes sense, and it's a very intelligent discussion to have. To be honest, it's very refreshing. I've never really gotten the chance to talk about this, so I'm glad we are. I did not put these labels on my Instagram or any place actually from the start. Okay, I
Hmm.
have evolved over time. Like I said, I've been doing specifically Real Girl for 5-6 years. It started with just, oh, I'm somebody who has unfiltered opinions, or it started with something pretty basic as, like, I don't like the filtered lives that I'm seeing around me. This is back then, right? Back in 2010, 11, 12, where it was all very different, online. No one was putting their true selves on the internet. And actually, Real Girl came from that time, because it was like, okay, no, but I want to do that because I'm sure there are people. Now, let's be very honest, I'm not the only person who had this thought.
Oh,
you
of
know
course. Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of people realize that, and realize there's a market to kind of, put yourself out there in a different way and show people the real side of things. And I'm glad, because that's needed. So I'm very glad I'm not the only person who does that, because what dent would I make in the universe alone? There has to be many people, and this has to be a movement. So I'm very glad it exists. Okay. Now, when it comes to these labels, I'll tell you what happened, especially after I started my first podcast, which was Real Talk. And like I said, that got attention, and that got people kind of checking me out, looking me up on Instagram. And that's when I realized these are labels actually they are ascribing to me. Okay. So for example, if my podcast would be mentioned somewhere, they would call me the unfiltered girl. If
Right.
they'd say she's funny. They'd say that, check so I've been part of many lists. I'm very fortunate to say this, but I've been mentioned often under feminist podcasts to check out. the
Okay. Yeah.
first the first platform that actually even gave me any attention was a wonderful platform called Feminism in India. and I will never forget, because you never forget your firsts, right? So I will never
and
forget.
that's a big sort of magazine. That's sort of like a big platform, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So to have my first ever mention be in that place was really special. And honestly, I come from a very normal background. I don't have intellectuals for family members and things like that. It's not that we sit and we talk about, I don't know, like
Judith
the
Butler or
world's,
something.
yeah, exactly, like the world's greatest philosophers or the painters or anything of that sort. I come from a very normal background. This was new to me, and I realized I'm doing something right, where my beliefs or my convictions are translating. So then I realized it's about having your own back and realizing that the world is calling you that anyway. So why don't you just put it out there,
Right.
so that
Yeah.
anybody who is even checking out my podcast or finding me through my podcast, which happens often, by the way, people find, because I think our podcasts have good reach. So people find us through there, and then via they find us as people online. So I'm like, when they come, there should be a consistency. you know when they check out my podcast first, they hear me talk first, and then they come to my Instagram. It's honestly
Mhm.
a branding exercise.
Yeah.
And I cannot be more upfront with you about it, because I feel like very few people will tell you that to your face,
Yeah.
that
No.
it's a branding exercise. Like, why should they come to my Instagram and find that I'm just any other girl just putting
Yeah.
up. you know I just want there to be a consistency in what I'm doing on every medium. And that is why on my Instagram you will find the stuff. Not that I don't believe it, but yes, maybe there was no real need to put it upfront like that.
Mm.
But I don't see why not. I'm being called
Yeah.
that
Yeah. No.
anyway.
I mean, yeah. I just wanted to sort of understand, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it as such. But yeah, there's sort of another question I have, which is tangentially related to this, was
Hmm.
because you make content on like several platforms, Instagram, your podcast, this, that, whatever, even your
Yeah.
blog. So and you sort of underline this aspect right now, that it sort of has this one theme that runs across sort of all of these
Yes.
platforms that you do have. But is there, so does the content then sort of change in a sense of maybe not the general theme as to what you're sort of talking about, but let's say the technicalities of how it sort of has to cater to on a particular platform, so say Instagram to a podcast, or that sort of manner, that you then sort of navigate just the technicalities, but like the core emphasis still same stays the same in some way.
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense. Like, on my podcast, I like to be a little more like, I'm more foul-mouthed on my podcast. So you see like another side of me, which is more relaxed. And I always say it also on my on my episodes. I say, like, it's 3 in the morning, it's 4 in the morning, it's just me. So I'm my most comfortable self right now. I don't have any pressures right now. Like, the world is dead to me at this moment. So I let it flow. I do a lot more English content. I'm
Mm.
comfortable with both English and Hindi. So I let myself go. I let myself just be. It's like having a 3 a.m. conversation with a best friend, where you
Yeah,
don't have to
yeah.
be right and you don't have to be correct. You can just be. If you're being really cribby that day, you're being cribby that day. Big shit. That's
Mm-hmm.
life. So that's the kind of personality I would like to think is more on my show Real Talk. And on the blog and stuff, because I take it so seriously, like the written word, I like to sound a certain way, and I pay attention to my writing, because I do understand that a potential client will also look me up and land up on my blog. So I don't want to be very chilled out about my use of language and syntax and my general vocabulary. So yes, there, of course, that I'm particular about that. When it comes to Instagram, I think I'm a little more quirky. And I'm not all that planned and prepped for my feed. I don't care.
Yeah.
Posts don't really match each other.
Yeah.
you know so I mean, these are all, I don't think any of it is not me. I just
Hmm.
think I'm taking myself and kind of fitting it into these different media, and like letting my personality adapt to each naturally
Yeah.
you know
Well, that sounds fair. I mean, until unless you're having fun, I think that's all that sort of matters in some
Yeah.
way.
And I think, yeah, that is so true. And I think fun translates. I think people can tell when you're having fun.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
I think, like, it's very, very palpable when someone is just being themselves and enjoying and chilling out. And like, I was asked on one of these, I was also doing another podcast with someone, and they were like, you don't you worry about your Instagram numbers and things like that. And maybe once upon a time, when before podcasting, especially when Instagram was all everyone was focusing on, of course I did worry, you know. And now also it gets to me sometimes, because I'm like, oh, why don't I have more followers? Like, what's happening? But honestly, no, you have to move past it. Instagram is not the whole internet. And
Hmm.
sometimes you've got to pause and you've got to realize you love podcasting and you have two good podcasts. So why not just enjoy what you have. And your personality does translate. It translates sometimes to some people more on one medium. Like, for example, my personality might translate more on podcasts, as opposed to Instagram, which is very visual, right? That's why models and actors and like that kind of stuff
Yeah.
is what we all follow, and we all want to look at clothes and beautiful destinations, and it's a very visual medium. And maybe I'm more of a talker, and
Yeah.
Instagram is not my space.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it makes sense. And this reminds me of the conversation you were having with Shivani Bedi, and something I sort of took away from that. And I so agree with it, where she sort of mentions that, like, as you're saying, like, if you're sort of true to yourself and you're putting out content that you sort of enjoy, and it's sort of true, and it's not like you're sort of putting a caricature out there, then
Yeah.
that sort of stuff does stick in the long term. So no matter what sort of manner in which you market it and those sorts of things, until unless your product isn't good, in the long term it's not gonna sort of do well on these sort of intrawebs. And yeah, that's I agree with that so much, because I've had this opportunity myself as well, that I was having this conversation with Jackie, and he works for Filter Copy. And he mentioned something that, even when you sort of see how YouTube is sort of starting to evolve in India, and even I think other places, it's
Hmm.
sort of moving away from like the bigger corporate houses who are on YouTube or something of that sort and who produce content. It's moving more towards, let's say, these independent YouTubers, or these independent creators who put on their stuff. And even if it's very minimal stuff that they don't have a
Hmm.
good setup to shoot with or something of that sort, but if they're true to themselves and producing content which is honest, that stuff is actually doing really well. So
Yeah.
in some sense, that is quite liberating, that you sort of don't need like a production house to
Yeah.
voice your thoughts across and those sorts of things. Obviously that may help in the future, but it's not that much of a barrier for one to sort of yeah, just put their thoughts across, which is so liberating in some way. Because so Aradhana, who's another podcaster, I think she does on Namaste India. So she said that through the internet and podcasting, YouTube, these sort of mediums, it sort of democratized just this aspect of creativity and this
Yeah.
aspect of this intellectual capital that we have. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, and those sorts of things. You can sort of tune in to something that you enjoy, something that you like to read, and those sorts of things, which is so beautiful, isn't it? Like that, in some way, that's like a reason why the both of us are having a conversation today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true, and I agree 100%. Which is why, it. I actually thought, when people dissed TikTokers, which were, so many young kids from the hinterlands and from
Mm.
smaller towns and cities in our country, and I saw people dissing them, and I said, no, you're just insecure now, because anybody can do what
Yeah.
traditionally only a big city kid could do, and
Mm.
it's very, very classist of people to sort of I mean, unfortunately TikTok went away and things like that, and I know these smaller creators and all did suffer a lot.
Mm.
But the truth is that it was so democratized, as you rightly said. I mean, anybody could sort of create content, and that's how it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the essence of content, and I think about it for myself. I mean, as much as I keep saying, I've been in the media and things like that, honestly, I wouldn't be doing this. I would probably be in a media job
Yeah.
somewhere, probably have also worked my way up. And I'm not denying that I always had the drive, and I would be working somewhere in the media, but I wouldn't be creating my own content, which is
Mm.
just so satisfying, right? Like, to think that in this lifetime we get to put our own art out there. Once upon a time, that was an advantage only the absolutely aristocratic families had,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So I mean, you
So
got
I
to keep
mean,
your eye on the prize.
yeah, of course, like, and yeah, that's, and as you were saying, I think in the beginning of this conversation as well, even if people aren't from, like, I'm not from media background, but I'm making this
Mm,
podcast, and in
yeah.
some way, and this is not only me but other sort of people on like the internet as well, in some way, if you're not from like that particular background, in some way there is like a novel crowd that comes to you,
Yeah.
because the manner in which you sort of then take to, let's say, podcasting or making YouTube or whatever that you're doing is different, because it's not sort of constructed in the same manner that you'd be taught at media school or whatever. So
Mm,
it in some way, yeah, as you're saying, it just yeah, it just puts out a different perspective, and yeah, it's just always great to sort of have that around. In terms of TikTok, that's like so fascinating to me, because I don't know if you saw this, because you were mentioning this, that like some of these clips that are on there, some of these TikToks that they people were producing from, let's say, some of the disadvantaged backgrounds as well, like they had such beautiful storylines in like even
yeah.
15-20 seconds. I'm like, wow, this is like amazing. and
Yes.
and yeah, but yeah, I mean, it has translated somewhat to Instagram reels and those sorts of things, but yeah, yeah, so I totally agree with that, man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I was saying with that was is but it's also some of the smaller platforms. I don't know if I want to even use that term, but I recently saw how much of a reach like platforms like MX Player and those sorts of things have, and it's insane.
Mm, yeah.
So there's this I don't know if you've come across him. There's this reeler called Puneet Superstar, and he's just
Okay.
insane. So he does the most wildest of stuff, and that is someone like I aspire to be in some way. I don't know if I'd ever be, because he's someone who's so raw. He puts basically for people who wishes whose birthday it is, he sort of puts cake in his face in front of his followers. He's dancing on the streets, and he's basically the epitome of like how like one can basically be, if that makes sense, and like not have that sort of a mirror that what people may think of you on the internet, because the fact of the matter is, however much we want to portray ourselves in a certain there always comes this aspect that acha, like how is
Yeah.
it looking or something
Of
of that sort.
course. Of
So
course.
yeah, that's just yeah, that's what I generally think about.
Please do send me this guy's handle once
No,
we're
dude,
done with
he's
this. I'd love to check him out. So in fact,
he's
that's
insane,
another
yeah.
thing. Like I love content so much that I'm always curious. I want to know, like, I want to know who you're talking about, and I want to
Yeah,
stalk their content. And like people my age, like they don't even follow YouTubers, because
uh,
like we were already grown ups when YouTube sort of came. I think we must be in our first or second jobs, when
huh.
YouTube became big. And I just feel like I have no qualms. I love YouTube. I will watch it. I will discuss it. So, it's really funny because I have younger cousins or nieces, and I'm the only one. Everyone's like, what are you talking about? And I'm the only
Yeah.
one who actually knows stuff because I really enjoy the world of content that much. It just doesn't matter to me whether it's YouTube, whether it's a podcast, even the podcasts that you're mentioning or people you're mentioning. I'm definitely going to look them up.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure, and I think that's the beauty of it, because only through that then people will get to know their work, and it's just a reciprocal thing, and that's, yeah, that's what's great about this sort of medium. I
Yeah.
know we're running out of time as such, and it's just flown by. I've really enjoyed this conversation so far.
So have I.
I guess there's just one sort of last question that I have, because you've been working in the space of media and even digital for that matter for a considerable amount of time now. Is there something that you have to say to, let's say, the young people who want to produce content out there on the internet, be it podcasts, whatever medium it may be, blogs, or just on Instagram? Is there some things that maybe you've taken away through your journey and you'd want to impart? So yeah, that'd be free.
Yes, I definitely have things to say to to anybody. It doesn't have to be a young
Exactly.
person,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
anybody who
Oh
wants to
yeah,
start with
yeah.
content.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, okay, so if I have to look at this very, very realistically, one is, if you need to earn money, okay, like if you need to like provide for your family or for yourself even, try and have another source of income. Okay. Have the day job, or kind of maybe a part-time job, but something that's keeping you going. Because as lovely as content is and as worth it as it is very hard to monetize, you know. And I feel this is not spoken about enough, and it is the sad reality, you know. It's too unglamorous to talk about it, but it is what it is, you know. So always have that one thing going, which is getting you at least a basic income. Also, you don't want to be a burden to your parents who may have put in so much into your education. I don't know what kind of background you come from. Maybe you have a family you need to support. So always do what you need to do as a human first, which is bring in the bread and butter. Okay. So that is one aspect to it. Secondly, when I'm just talking about content and the joy of content creation, keep at it. This is a long game. People think it's a small thing. People think it's going to happen in a few weeks. Maybe once upon a time, things were like that. But you know what? That time has gone. Today, everybody is a content creator. Everybody. And that shouldn't deter you. That should encourage you. That's how big the space is, you
Yeah.
know? So every single person is out there creating content. Anybody can pivot at any time. Through this pandemic, how many doctors have we seen turn into content creators? Tell me that. How many doctors? Just
And
because
that's
it's,
just great, isn't it? Because we need more
yeah,
people. Like, yeah.
exactly, because we needed that information, and they realized there's a gap in the market because we don't know what's happening with this virus, and we don't know
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
happening. You know, and they took to it because they all have Instagram, and they all had all of these mediums to kind of convert their you know, their knowledge into something saleable, right? So at the end of the day, everyone can turn into tomorrow your CA, your fuddy duddy uncle CA, who may not, you know, you may not strike you as content creator types, can turn around and teach us so much. Because
Yeah.
let's face it, we don't know enough about
Yeah.
accounting, and we don't know enough. Most of us, I'll say, most of us don't know enough about numbers.
Yeah.
So, you know, anybody can be a content creator. Don't start looking at why is this one getting into content, and you know, I think this is a trap I personally fell into, you know, early on, when I just started my blog and stuff, because you know, it was a big move for me, and then I felt a little like disappointed. I'm like, oh, everyone's doing it, but that shouldn't have been. And I realized over time that that's not how to look at it, you know. So to anybody starting now, start now. It makes sense, you know, as long as you're not putting your family in jeopardy or anything. You
Yeah.
know, keep at it. Believe in what you have to put out there. Believe in it. Like, there's a market for everything. Look at India. It's such a huge country. You're telling me there won't be takers for what you have to say? Have some self belief, you know.
Yeah, I think, yeah, no, for sure. Look, Smriti, I've really enjoyed this. Hopefully, we can do this sometime again in the future, maybe in person, perhaps.
I'd love
But yeah,
that.
yeah. Thanks a lot for coming on. Thank you.
Most welcome. I've enjoyed this chat. You gave me the opportunity to talk about so many things and think about so many things I haven't in a long, long time. So I really appreciate it. And I have to commend you because great questions, and you've done such a great job of this. And thank you so much, and good luck with all of your episodes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you.